Everyone has a name. Well, not everyone. In comparison with over 1,300 men, the Tanakh names approximately 111 women. Of course, this accounts for, this is an estimate. There's a lot of duplicates, some Yitro, Reuel, some people with multiple names. But the ratio stands. And that makes it all the more surprising when in this week's Parsha, the formula is reversed. When the unknown man, son of a named woman, commits blasphemy in the heat of an intense moment and gets stoned as a result. This guy, not described as a kid or adult, simply the son of an Israelite woman and an Egyptian man, goes out into the camp and fights the son of an Israelite. We don't know who picked the fight. We don't know how old they are, what it was about. Stepping back, we don't know why this story is here, right in the middle of a bunch of ritual laws. All we know is the son of an Israelite man and an Egyptian woman gets into a fight, commits blasphemy, and that his mother's name is Shlomit bat Divri of the tribe of Dan. So why does this peculiar story belong in this parsha, and why do we learn Shlomit's name? We need a fuller picture. Rashi, citing a midrash, clarifies that they fought over his, Shlomit's son, place in the camp. If inheritance follows the father's line, this kid would be out of luck. His father was an Egyptian. Egyptians didn't have a place in the Israelite camp. So he tries to claim his mom's inheritance and gets rejected. Of course, the son of an Israelite was following normative practice. He was just following orders. Chizkuni, a 13th century French rabbi whose writings often respond to Rashi, emphasizes that Shlomit's son felt excluded. He had no Jewish father, therefore no land or belonging, but at the very least he should belong to his mom's tribe. So using these reads, we can see a little bit more of what happened. The son of a single mother in a society that doesn't name most women tries to fit in and gets rejected. Feeling powerless, he lashes out against the only being he thinks can help and receives the death penalty. The Torah had spent chapters teaching us the laws of Shabbat and the priests and of everything that works perfectly in a vacuum. And this story reminds us that human beings operate in the real world. What the law says on the page can often clash with what we see in the streets. And we need to remind ourselves of the dangers of prioritizing the written word over human life. This story belongs here because in a society of norms and rules and expected behavior, we have an obligation to find those who don't belong. And the first step is to learning their names. Which brings us to our second question. We learn Shlomit's name because names, especially in the Torah, often provide a peek into that person's character or purpose. Shlomit means peace. Her father's name, notice we don't get her mother's, but her father's name, Divri, means my word. And it's fair to say that her parents wished for her to seek in her life peace through her speech. And what tragic irony that her own son dies because of his words in a fight. My parents named me Natan, my Hebrew name is Natan, after Nathan the prophet who stands up to King David. In the second book of Samuel, King David sees a beautiful woman sunbathing on a roof, so he decides to send her husband off to war to fight on the front lines, knowing what would inevitably happen, so he could marry her. The prophet Nathan goes to King David and tells him the powerful parable where he likens King David to somebody who steals it. Well, we can cover that later. But King David reacts forcefully. He gets the message. That man should die. And then Nathan points at him and says, "You are that man." My parents named me Natan because they wanted to instill in me the chutzpah to fight for what's right, even if pointedly accusing the king of doing something wrong. By learning a person's name, we learn the beginning of their story. And of course, our work doesn't end there. And you wouldn't have known this about me from my English name, Kevin. You only know it because I'm saying it from the Bima. And as your rabbi, I will do my best to learn your names, to hear your stories, and to understand why you belong here at Adat Shalom. But I also hope to find those in our midst who, like Shlomit's son, didn't belong. And rather than throwing up my hands or pointing to the written law, I commit to make them, to make you, whoever you are, feel accepted in our community. Of course, there's a crucial name that I'd left out. God's. Because remember, Shlomit's son gets into trouble for blasphemy, for cursing God's name. As partners with God, we have an equal responsibility with God to improve the world in which we live. And of course, that means we all can and should cry out to God when we encounter injustice. It's only natural. But cursing God's name undermines the entire system. Because why work on ourselves if there's no hope for success? Shlomit's son died because he had his vision of the world lived on. Jews couldn't serve as a light unto the other nations. We would have no purpose. It would be meaningless. In my teaching this afternoon, we're going to study a different biblical character, one who famously refuses to blaspheme God. And this guy has it all until God and Satan take it away from him. And how does Job fit into the Israeli redemption narrative? Why would God purposely punish somebody who's so apparently good and upstanding? Come find out after Kiddush. But here's a hint. It relates to why he doesn't speak out. So thank you to all who entrusted me with this honor of serving you as rabbi for the coming year. I look forward to a year of learning, of teaching, of getting to know each other, of course, beginning with our names. Shabbat Shalom.